All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
What gives you the confidence tomorrow night it'll be safe? Right.
I'm going to be there.
Me too. Yeah, we're going to be there.
After a New Year's Day attack on the biggest city in his state, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry wants everyone to know that he'll be at the old football game, so you should too.
Governor, I hate to jump on you, but there's conflicting information. On one hand, you're telling the people that it is safe, but then you have co-conspirators that are out there. And then to layer on that of getting all the information, we just had your Attorney General, your Chief Law Enforcement Officer, that says she hasn't even been briefed about those people that they brought into custody. So if your Chief Law Enforcement Officer is not being briefed about the people that are out there, how can the people have confidence?
Well, look, I can tell you this. I am in the city right now. I'm going to attend the Sugar Bowl this afternoon. I will be around. We are going to be briefing the media, hopefully about mid-morning. I don't know about the comments that the Attorney General made. Again, that's part of why we try not to engage in speculation. I've been trying to be couched in the information that I report back to the media specifically because of that. What I can tell you is that we believe that based upon the information that we're getting from the federal government and my Louisiana State Police, that this city is as safe as it's been.
The confidence Landry has is that he'll be at the Sugar Bowl. Who cares if he has any actual evidence or confirmation that things are secured? I mean, there are a lot of rich people that invested money into profiting off of this college football game, and he'll be damned if something like insignificant, like a bunch of murdered people, is going to let them down. Now, if it was a CEO that was targeted, I mean, that'd be a completely different story. And anyway, he and some buddies went out for a nice, expensive dinner in the city and posted about it so everybody can just calm down. Ate dinner tonight in New Orleans. Proud to be a part of this incredibly resilient city. See everyone at the game tomorrow.
This can happen in any city. Look, we had an incident in Las Vegas on yesterday. But I can tell you this, there are a lot more resources and law enforcement officers in the city of New Orleans right now than they were 24 hours ago. Again, you know, at the end of the day, we need not let fear paralyze us. That's the problem in this country.
Right.
When we do that, the terrorists win.
Governor, I know you're heading to the Sugar Bowl tonight. Anything you can share with us about your plans and what security is going to look like?
Look, security is going to be tight. We have all the confidence that we're going to be able to put this game on. The Superdome is completely secure. Again, the FBI continues to pour resources into the state. We hope to update you all sometime today on exactly what those resources look like as best we can. Again, maybe not getting into the specifics.
And this guy fixed his lips to say that the problem is that we Americans are too damn scared to go out hours after a terror attack on a major city that's hosting 2 major sporting events with the Super Bowl coming next month. He's saying this as if folks don't see that he's only concerned with shielding himself from negative attention and making more money for the rich people that support him. And did you notice that he had no specific details behind his declarations that everything will be okay? The problem is that a couple of officials aren't on board for his "the show must go on" type of agenda.
What is your latest thinking on the security? I know you have said that perhaps another delay is in order.
You know, yesterday there were discussions about whether to have the game last night, which I frankly thought was absurd. We still had bodies that had to be removed from the ground and an open investigation to secure the crime scene. And so, you know, it seemed to me that that was not a hard decision to make, even if the logistics of it might have been more complicated.
How do you have a game? How do you have any type of mass event when you have people potentially that contributed to this event that are still within the city or in greater Louisiana?
That's a very good question. I think that we have a lot of law enforcement presence in New Orleans. When I left there last night, all I could see were blue lights all over downtown New Orleans and the French Quarter. I know that the police have conducted a grid search of the entire area down in downtown and in the French Quarter and around the Superdome. So the governor has added 100 National Guard to that area to ensure that it is secure. But, you know, there's a lot going on. It's an active investigation of a crime scene. after a terrorist event. And I don't think we could, I mean, it's not possible to take this too seriously.
Attorney General, I just wonder, are officials on the same page here? I sense that you're not ready for this game to happen today.
Well, you know, they didn't ask my opinion about whether it should or it shouldn't, although I do have one.
Even the Republican Attorney General of the state couldn't hold back her opinion about how ridiculous it is to have the game played while the leadership shows just how little they know about the safety of the city. So when politicians like Landry look this incompetent and slogans like "we can't let terrorists win" aren't working, this party reverts back to blaming Democrats and the federal government, because to them, partisan divisiveness always works.
There's a lot of information going around. Some of it is actually true. Some of it isn't. The federal government is now in charge of this investigation. By that, I mean the White House, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice. I did talk to the Secretary of Homeland Security a little while ago. And I told him that with all the respect I could muster, that we expect to put the full force and resources of the federal government behind this investigation. Here's what I want to ask from the federal government. Catch these people. Catch these people. And then tell the American people the truth. I guess my final point is, I will promise you this. I will, when it is appropriate and this investigation is complete, you will find out what happened and who was responsible. Or I will raise fresh hell. And I will chase those in the federal government who are responsible for telling us what happened, like they stole Christmas.
Nothing like a good old country idiom from Senator Kennedy while people are mourning the death and trauma that they experienced. This garbage human can't even discuss the attack on a city in his state that killed residents and visitors without immediately deflecting the attention to some boogeymen so that he doesn't have to do any hard work. This guy won't raise fresh hell about the abject poverty that's rampant in his state or the horrifically underserved education system that continues to set the state up for failure while the richest live in their ivory towers. You know, all these guys that have never dealt with accountability for their actions think that they can evoke their political lord and savior to get the attention off of their inability to respond to this kind of event in a humane way.
The only way to protect people from evil is to crush it. And believe you me, Inauguration Day can't come soon enough, because the one person that understands that is Donald Trump. I can tell you this too. His Homeland Security pick, Governor Kristi Noem, who I served with in Congress, understands that as well. And they're going to work with us to put policies in place that protect the American people and not the criminals that are out there.
I'll tell you, I was at Mar-a-Lago yesterday with President Trump, just a couple of hours after that explosion at his place in Las Vegas at the hotel. And, you know, he has concern, as we all do, and he is anxious to take office. We cannot wait. We're 18 days away from President Trump being returned to the White House and us restoring real law and order in this country. And it will begin with securing that border because that's a big priority.
Speaker Mike Johnson, who admitted to partying at the King's Castle for New Year's while Americans in his state were being slaughtered, he can only offer up Donald Trump as the remedy to his every problem. They've only got 17 or 18 days left to blame everything on Biden. So the man that compared himself to Moses is milking it for everything it's worth.
I don't know if enough attention is being paid to this, but we all know that for the last 4 years, the Biden administration has been completely derelict in its duty. The congressional Republicans, we here in the House and the Senate, have repeatedly asked the DHS under the Biden administration about the correlation, the obvious concern about terrorism and the wide open border. The idea that dangerous people were coming here in droves and setting up potentially terrorist cells around the country. We have been ringing the alarms. We impeached DHS Secretary Mayorkas in the House over that very issue and others related to it. So this is a big concern. They told us, Lawrence, for 4 years that the #1 threat was so-called racially motivated extremism. It was nonsense. This is the thing that we were all concerned about. This is why we raised the alarms. This is why we passed H.R. 2, the strongest border security act ever passed by Congress. And Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate would not put that through and make it into law. The Biden administration has a lot to account for here, and we see now in glaring view of everybody that this dereliction of duty has real consequences. It's a concern, and it will be an ongoing concern for some time.
Why is Mike Johnson talking about the border and failed legislation around it when Trump openly killed the bipartisan border bill that was championed by Republican Senator Langford? He must think that blaming this attack that was carried out by an American citizen, a United States veteran, will be forgotten while people are scrambling and afraid. He thinks the same way his boss thinks, that supporters and voters are still in empty campaign mode where nothing has to make any sense. They've only got a couple weeks, though, to figure out how to back all this obviously empty talk up with some action.
Meanwhile, the man who's moving into this White House behind me in less than 3 weeks, President-elect Donald Trump put out a statement on social media earlier today that reads as follows. When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. Now, the former president said criminals coming in his statement, meaning into our country. But to be clear, Molly and Brian, the suspect was born in the United States. He served in the United States Army. He was a veteran.